Hello everyone, welcome to chapter 6. This chapter is entitled The Marketing Program. This is an enormous chapter that many other textbooks would cover in probably 4 or 5 different chapters. It's primarily review from principles and other marketing courses you have taken, centering on the 4 Ps. And so I'm going to go through these slides. There's a lot of them, but I'll just go through them briefly, kind of hitting the high points. So just a basic outline, there's the 4 Ps, product, price, supply chain, which is place, and IMC, which is another way to say promotions. And it looks like they've got a typo there for marketing there. So again, the marketing program just is a combination of all the activities you do that fall into the 4 Ps. Okay, so you should be familiar with these a good bit already. Again, not a whole lot to say here, but basically you're trying to come up with activities, tactics that are going to paint you in the best light, differentiate yourselves from the competition, and hopefully get products efficiently to consumers. Okay, product strategy, just the actual design and selection of products are considered part of the product strategy. This is where you're going to be, creating value. You've got consumer goods or consumer products, that is, and business products. Okay, and I know we talked about this in principles. 4 types of consumer products: convenience shopping, specialty, and unsought, each with their own unique kind of implications for marketing. For example, if you sell convenience products, you want to make them available as many places as possible. Whereas if you're into if you're involved in shopping products, for example, it doesn't make sense to have, for example, appliances available everywhere. Business products, so if we're talking about business markets instead of consumer markets, you got a lot of other things going on, raw materials, components, stuff like that makes them different from consumer markets. Product portfolio is just the mix of all the products that you carry. We've talked before about product line, product mix. You've got to make decisions about coverage. Are you going to go after just certain markets? And I believe we talked about this in the previous chapter. You're going to go after just certain markets. You're going to try to cover all markets. And what sort of products are you going to do? Do the products need to differ from market to market? Things like that. And then depth is huge. So for each product line, how many different choices are you going to provide? So if you're McDonald's sandwiches, you've got Big Mac, Quarter Pounder, chicken sandwich, Filet-O-Fish, a couple others. So that's kind of their sandwich product line depth, for example. Large product portfolio provides you lots of really good things, good reach for sure. You can reach lots of different groups. Economies of scale are huge, things like that. A number of other benefits you see there. Okay. If we talk about services, services are intangible products. Remember that there are different kind of characteristics that make it unique from goods. They're intangible, meaning you can't touch them. Simultaneous production and consumption, mean you can't produce it until it's consumed. They happen at the same time. Perishable, as soon as they're consumed, they're gone. Heterogeneity, that just means that because they're so much subject to humans and human fallibility and human error, then it's going to be different. 2 different packages of M&Ms are going to be a lot more similar than 2 different encounters at using service at, say, Applebee's. And it's just the nature of humans. We're just not perfect, and things happen, and just lots of variability there. Okay, new products. It's important for companies to always be making new products. It stimulates growth. It allows them to reach new markets. It does lots of different things. Just kind of as an aside, we've gotten to a point in time where we've got this concept called planned obsolescence. Just means that companies produce products knowing that they're going to be obsolete at some point when they produce the next version of the product, and so it allows them to to keep demand going? Is this an ethical thing? Is there, is this kind of a sneaky thing? So, if we were in a real class, we could have some discussions about that, but just kind of a unique thing. It's called planned obsolescence. Cell phone industry is notorious for this. They put out a new phone, and it's almost as soon as it's out, the next one is on its way, making that previous one already obsolete. Okay. Strategic options related to products. You can talk about totally new products. You can talk about product line extensions, new versions of products that are cost reduction. Think about I forget what it's called, the iPhone a number of years ago. They put out a cheaper version of the phone. That's an example of a cost reduction product. Repositioning. Kia and Hyundai both over the last 10 years have done a great job of repositioning their products as to be of higher quality. So there's all kinds of different types of new products we could talk about. Here's a new product development process straight from chapter in this book, but also we talked about this directly in Principles as well. Starts with an idea, evaluation of those ideas, and so on and so on. Pricing. Pricing is important because pricing helps you sell products, which generates revenue, which is pretty much your only way to generate money for the firm. So you got to be very careful with it, and know that it's not just when you're pricing, it's not just about price equaling, a base cost plus some markup percentage. You can do that, but generally it's a little more complicated than that if you want to do it appropriately and price it appropriately compared to your competitors, and also in relation to what consumers are willing to pay. So this last point here is important. Highly commoditized markets where there's lots of different competitors and their products are almost all the same. Pricing is the only real way to set yourself apart. Think about gasoline, for example. What's the difference between Chevron and Exxon gas? Not much, just basically the price, okay? Break-even units, selling price are two formulas that are very important. Again, the bottom one, selling price, I mentioned that markup isn't necessarily the best way to do it, but it is the most common way because it's easy to do, and that's the formula that you kind of use to determine your selling price. Break even important as well. You need to make sure you understand what's the minimum amount you have to sell in order to make back money off or to offset your costs, basically. Okay. Perceived value pricing is unique in the fact that we can use numbers here to kind of create perceptions of our products and of our brands. We as consumers, we kind of have weird ways of thinking, and so that the number on a product can influence us in numerous ways. Some myths here, those two myths are interesting. First of all, when business is good, a price cut will capture greater market share. Well, actually, it's the opposite. When business is good, a price cut will basically cost you money because you won't be generating as much revenue as you could. Basically what we call leaving money on the table, okay? And myth number two, when business is bad, a price cut will stimulate sales, also a problem, okay? If your product doesn't sell, it could just be that it's a bad product. Okay, if you are going to cut prices, you got to make sure you have a good reason for it, and you have to have a good handle on the fact, for a fact that volume is going to increase enough to offset the drop in margin that's going to come from lowering the price. Okay, pricing objectives, just kind of read through these. Profit, volume, market demand, market share. There's lots of different objectives we could talk about. There's many more there. Prestige pricing is very big in fashion and automobiles and jewelry, things like that. The price is probably not linked to the kind of inherent cost of the product. Price elasticity, here we're talking about the relationship between price changing and demand changing. So if you raise the price of your product, what's that going to do to demand? Some product categories, price increases or price decreases have a significant impact on demand, and other product categories does not. So if it has a significant impact, it's called price elastic. If it has, minimal effect, it's what we call price inelastic. A good example of an inelastic product is gasoline. You still have to get to work regardless of the price of gas. And so yes, if the price goes super high, you may change your habits some, but not a lot. Okay, on the other hand, if the price of a movie went up 50% or 100%, like gas is known to fluctuate, you're going to go to a lot less movies. That's just kind of the way it is. Okay, things that lower your elasticity, things like this. So if there's no other good option, or situational influences. So going back to the gas situation, the most convenient station on your route may be the one you pick, even if the price is higher. You're not going to necessarily price shop for gasoline. You could, but you may not. Services, a little harder to price because it's harder to see what you're getting and know what the cost is, and things like that. So customers are pretty uneducated about the service itself, so it can be a little difficult. Okay, some other situations about there related to why pricing is pretty complex in service. Just a little bit more here about service pricing. You can kind of have different prices at different times of day or different times of year to kind of smooth out demand. The utilities do this, absolutely. Some other places as well. Base pricing, I know we've talked about these in other classes. Price skimming, you're going to set a high initial price to capture, innovators and additional market share. Early market share. Price penetration, you start with a low price just to build market share as quickly as possible. Prestige, we just kind of mentioned already. Value-based, places like Walmart and Target follow this. You may just price your products evenly or right with your competitors. Gas stations tend to do this. And there's other non-price strategies. And again, cost plus would be a good example of a non-price strategy. Okay, adjusting the base price, you've got all these things here. You can discount, you can build reference pricing, we can do all kinds of things here. Pricing in business markets, things get a little bit different. You can have trade discounts, a lot of other types of discounts. They may say if you pay your bill by the first of next month, we'll give you a 2% discount. You see that a lot. Geographic pricing is a big deal, transfer pricing, bartering, things like that. All right, I realize we're going quickly here, but there's a lot of stuff to hit, and I don't want this video to be so long that you're going to fall asleep. Distribution or supply chain, here we're talking about getting products to consumers and the value that we create by doing so. Physical distribution is, again, getting products to consumers. Supply chain has to do with all the members that help get the products from the producer to the consumer. Supply chain integration here, just a bit about some major factors. Okay, collaboration's big. If you've got to recognize that the different supply chain members usually are independent and they have their own goals. And if you can kind of come up with compatible goals, then you have more of a community type feel, which is really good and can help improve the performance and the relationship of the members of the supply chain. Figure from the book here, just about things that help you get supply chain set up in a way that's going to be successful, things like cooperation, trust, stability, stuff like that. Okay, time, place, possession, utility. We've kind of talked about this in different words already. Okay, and a big thing about supply chain, more than just getting products to consumers, is reducing costs to the organization. You know, any organization could buy their own fleet of trucks and deliver products themselves, but it may just be too expensive and may not be super efficient. So sometimes you find someone else to do that for you. Okay, lots of services happen within the supply chain: sorting, breaking bulk, holding on to inventory, having convenient locations, things like that, that will help help you get your products to market. Exclusive distribution, you're only going to sell your products in one particular outlet or one particular chain. Kind of creates this kind of exclusive perception, which works really well with luxury products. Think about Ferrari, think about Lamborghini, think about Rolex, places like that. Selective distribution, you're going to distribute some places, but not all. So you kind of balance between exclusive and what we call intensive distribution, which is where you sell your products everywhere. So commodities, cheap things, convenience products are definitely appropriate for intensive distribution. Conflict. In a supply chain, there's more than one organization working together, and there can be always different types of conflict. They have their own goals and objectives typically, or if there is kind of interdependence, as there should be, it kind of can create problems along the way. Okay, especially if there is differences in power. So you've got some firms that are much more powerful. They're larger. They've got better access to resources. They got better access to locations, all kinds of things, and they can take advantage of other supply chain members because of that. There's always lots of allegations levied against Walmart that they do just this, and so could be an issue, can cause some significant conflict. Trends in the supply chain, technology is big, inventory management, replenishment, things like that. Ordering can be automated. This is what Walmart and Target do really well. Okay, and you can offshore or outsource lots of different channel functions. Okay, non-traditional channels, you've got catalog marketing, direct selling, things like that. I wouldn't say that catalog selling is necessarily growing, but direct marketing definitely, I would say, is. Home shopping is popular. Vending machines are a part of supply chain and are considered non-traditional for sure. Okay, trends in outsourcing. So outsourcing is just this idea that you do what you do well and let other companies contract with them to do what they do well. Allows you to focus on what you do best. Should reduce costs, increase efficiency, things like that. All right, flipping to the last of the 4 Ps. This is promotion. We can also call it integrated marketing communications. This is basically any way we communicate with the organization is, any way you communicate with consumers, with the public, with interested parties is considered part of the promotion P, or integrated marketing communication. So IMC itself is just this idea that everything that you do in terms of communication, there's going to be some sort of consistent message across all the different media types and channels to really hopefully reinforce what the brand is, who the brand is, what you do, things like that. Okay, builds long-term relationships, reduces redundancies, things like you see here, helps you target consumers directly. Within the IMC, you've got 4 major components. We can call this the promotion mix: advertising, personal selling, public relations, sales promotion. Those all kind of fall in, what we call, again, the promotion mix. If you've taken promotion strategy, you should know this already. If not, once you get there, it will be covered in great detail. IMC requires, very significant goals. What are we doing with our communication? We're not just kind of throwing things up against the wall and hoping things stick. We've got to have some sort of idea of what we want. Is it about building the brand recognition, brand identity? What is it? And so you've got to be clear about what the AIDA model is: attention, interest, desire, action. So basically here it's just about getting people's attention, making them, getting them interested in your products, wanting to buy your products, and ultimately doing so. And you have to acknowledge in marketing that, people see an ad, see some sort of, promotion, some sort of communication. You've got to understand that they're not going to necessarily run out that second and go get the product. It just takes time. This is why advertising is very repetitive. It kind of builds, okay, and hopefully gets you to this action, okay. In the supply chain, promotions can be push or pull. Pull strategy, you are you're targeting consumers and asking and having them kind of pull products through the supply chain, whereas a push strategy is the opposite. You're promoting your products directly to other supply chain members, like, hey, sell our products, things like that. Okay, advertising, is probably the most visible element of IMC. It's paid, it's non-personal, it reaches mass audiences. Traditional media has caused some issues with advertising, but mobile and digital advertising is definitely on the rise and will continue to be so for a long time. Okay, it's expensive. It's kind of hard to evaluate how well it works. Okay, we as consumers, we don't like being advertised to, and so we can resist in that regard. So even though advertising is still pretty popular, there are some pretty significant challenges for it these days. PR, building goodwill, smoothing over problems, promoting good things that the company does. Things like that is what we're talking about when we say public relations. Okay? So build awareness, promote the firm, do things like that. Public relations are very, very, very much involved when something goes wrong and you need to kind of apologize and promise the public that you're going to fix whatever happened. Okay? Often it's confused with publicity, which is just created to gain media attention, but they can go hand in hand. Part of public relations is generating media attention, but publicity and public relations kind of definitionally are different. Okay, methods, things like white papers, news releases, sponsorship of events, Little League teams, NASCAR races, things like that are considered part of public relations. Personal selling, we all love the salesperson, right? Definitely part of the promotion mix, definitely part of IMC. Very customized, very personal, very expensive as well. Okay, so a lot of firms, they don't even do personal selling because they don't necessarily have to. Others, it's their entire business model. I worked for a firm that was their entire business model was to have a fleet of salespeople out there, knocking on doors, trying to sell products. Okay. Management of a sales team is important. You've got to incentivize the selling process. You've got to create lots of objectives. You've got to recruit and train and constantly train because things change all the time. You've got to evaluate the sales force and hopefully motivate them to continually be improving. Okay. Technology has helped in a lot of ways. It's reduced the sales force size, which isn't necessarily good, but it has reduced some costs. It has created the ability to have more specific, detailed information about potential clients that you're calling on, which can maybe help break the ice and make a sales call more effective. Okay, sales promotion, here you're doing things in order to entice consumers to buy your product. A sale, a coupon, a rebate, a sample, buy one, get one free, all of those things. It's all about inducing trying the product. So I just mentioned some of these loyalty programs are big now as well. Direct mail is considered part of that also. Within the business markets, cooperative advertising. So a manufacturer could, give a retailer money in exchange for that retailer, promoting their particular brand in their store or in their advertising. Okay, trade allowances, free merchandise, things like that, training, assistance, sales incentives. You may go into some retailer and there'll be some salesperson from the manufacturer in there, kind of working with the retailer salespeople trying to sell products. That kind of falls in here as well. Okay, so that's a whirlwind tour of the marketing program. Again, it's an enormous chapter. We could talk about it for an entire semester, but that's kind of the nuts and bolts. Make sure you read through the chapter. It is long, like I said, but it is important that you keep up on those 4P issues that we've talked about already in principles. So that's it. Thanks again. Talk to you soon.